will call the public hearing to order. We have a public hearing on the petition to close a portion of Kiowa Street. Anyone who would like to speak in regards to that, come to the podium and give us your name and address for the record. And see no one. I will close the public hearing and call the regular council meeting to order. And I will recognize Councilman Condon to lead us in the pledge of allegiance and invocation.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Since this is the last meeting before our election, we're going to pray the way our Father taught us and hold hands. Our Father,
Who art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
next item on the agenda is the reading of the minutes for October 6th. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the minutes being approved as written, do so with show of hands. All opposed. Next item is the Administrative Briefing. Mr. Brown, anything you'd like to add?
No, sir, I don't.
Any questions, Mr. Brown?
We had a farmer's market last Saturday.
Where?
Here, Irmo did, and I didn't know about it till Saturday. Yes,
It wasn't scheduled.
Well, she
You
had.
did?
Did you know about it, Whit? Because normally we close the road, put the barriers out and all
No,
kinds of...
I think she's over at the new park. I don't know, I'm asking.
Surprised us.
But we need to ask her when she's gonna finish, because I'll go if I know when.
So she wasn't starting back up until April, except for the Christmas market.
Except for the Christmas, well, she had one Saturday, because I emailed her, so I had two people call me and ask, and I emailed her, and she said, yes. No. I just didn't know. We need to do a better job of communicating, not necessarily her, I mean, I think it's us, the town, and we all need to communicate that better.
Well, they normally put out the
They have
sandwich
schedule.
But
boards
they
and all,
didn't, sister,
but I didn't see that.
I didn't either, but I think it was over at the new barn, because, you know, when we voted to do that, I think she thought that meant.
Well, they did it on their own without going to the town. I mean, their schedule ended in September. They
But
did
then
it,
they
they
give us
just...
a schedule with
Yeah,
whatever
they did it, they
days
just
and
did it on
that
their
kind of
own.
stuff.
Well, they must have. Well, I would have gone if I had more advance notice.
Any other questions, Ms. Brown? Next item is amendments to the agenda. Any amendments to the agenda? Next item is...
We had I thought we were supposed to add something on the agenda for this farmer's market.
Well, yes, sir, we
They're
did,
gonna-
but then we emailed her, and because you wanted to talk about the concert and having them run it, and she said that they weren't gonna run it, at least not in 2016. And everybody got the email, so I just left it off there.
I mean, that's not a dead issue. I mean, I still got the overstructure committee and all this working on that.
If you would like, I mean, we can add it to have somebody else do it, but I haven't heard from anybody. The orchestra didn't want to do it, and the farmer's market didn't want to do it. I mean, I've got confirmations
She
from
said
those
she
two.
wanted to do seminars on cooking and,
Just didn't want to.
Yeah.
Well, we'll find out. I'll find out and get back to you. I need to figure out,
Thank you.
okay, exactly what they wanted to do with that.
And any receipt of communications? Seeing none. Next item is presentation by citizens. This is for citizens who would like to speak to us on stuff that's on the agenda may do so at this time. All we ask is you give us the name and address for the record, your name and address for the record, and also the agenda item you want to speak to. Anyone who would like to speak? item is unfinished business. We have the approval to adopt a personnel policy dated October the 20th, 2015, and to revoke all previous personnel policies. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
I have one thing I need Bob to clarify for me. When we promote anybody, like the chief, we just put it, when we do a big, does he have a probationary period? Does everyone, or is it just?
Just anybody going into, coming to work here, not necessarily going into a new job.
So it's not after each promotion?
No, the police department might do that. If they have somebody promoted into an investigator slot or sergeant slot, you might have them on probation for a certain amount of time, but, we don't. And
Okay.
WIT doesn't.
There's something in here that says that, something
Yeah, probation.
about after promotion.
Oh, is that, I remember reading about new hires. I didn't know about-
I think I marked it. Anyway,
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, if they do. Make sure they can be a good sergeant, captain, chief.
Okay, that's fine with me.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, I do. On page 14, and speaking with Bob and his discussions with the labor attorney, it is the position, correct me if I misspeak, it is the position of the labor attorney that elected officials, appointed officials are not employees of the town. So as we look at the policies on page 14, I think that has a definite impact. It's under the title 1.21, hiring of relatives / nepotism. I think the very first part of that paragraph kind of covers everybody, including FIDO, all the way down, in-laws, outlaws, everybody. Then it looks like something has been added from what the copy I had, the last 3 lines of that first paragraph, where it says members of immediate family of elected officials of the town are not eligible for town employment. This policy includes employees of any commission, committee, or other entity appointed by town council. It looks like to me that you're varying from employees for trying to make other people, like commission members or committee members, employees of the town. And that is not the case.
Well, I will address that with nobody, I don't know, but we had this issue before with the hiring of a council member's wife who did work for a commission. And I spoke to Danny Crowe many years ago, and he said that with the sentence that says members of immediate family of elected officials of the town are not eligible for town employment. He said that covers everything, W-2, 1099 employees, any commission, anybody. If they get a paycheck from the town, they're an employee of the town, in regards to that right there. And I think we had a different interpretation about it, and so when the labor attorney was looking at it, I had Bob have them to look at that. And I think what I was told was they said, no, if it says members of immediate family members of elected officials of the town are not eligible for town employment, that means they're not eligible for town employment. Whether they get a 1099 or a W-2, they're not eligible. But he added that sentence there to make it a little bit more clear so there wouldn't be a misunderstanding, since we had a misunderstanding about that. And as far as anyone here, if we're not interested in hiring our immediate family members for any employment with any commission or committee, I don't know what difference it makes, unless somebody does.
Well, I think it would prevent anyone, from having, if Whit's son wanted to work during the summer, it would prevent that, or if he wanted to help during the okra strut, picking up trash or changing trash bags.
Whit's son is not Whit's not an elected official, so he would fall under the same hiring of relatives, under that same guideline, whatever that is. This right here only has to do with elected officials, or it has to do with us 5 members up here and one else. And again, if we're interested in hiring our family members, we can change it. If we're not, it just clarifies even better what it said before.
Okay, I hate to use Whit again as an example, but Whit really can't hire his son to help him, can he?
But he's not an elected official, so
No,
he
but
would
I
go
mean,
into
by
whatever.
nepotism,
But yeah, he can't,
you can't do that.
he can't, you know, he can't, I mean,
But you can pay him out of your own pocket.
I think that has to do with hiring relatives in an employee position, but this little 2 sentences there has to do with elected officials.
But this is a personnel policy for employees, right?
Well, it is, but it also
It doesn't have
says,
anything to do with the elected officials.
it says right there, elected officials, says members of the immediate family of elected officials are not eligible for county employment, so it evidently does, since it has it stated in there. And basically, anyone who is going to be hired, who is a relative of an elected official, would be disqualified from being hired.
No, this is a personnel policy handbook. It's not a qualification book for who can be hired or not. You're mixing the 2 things up.
Well, if you're looking at anyone who has to sign this is an employee of the town. This says they can't be hired if they're an immediate family member of elected officials. So it would apply.
That should be a policy, a town policy, not a personnel handbook policy.
Mhm.
Do you understand the difference between the 2?
I do. I
Okay,
think I'll have
so
a,
then the personal policy handbook is strictly dealing with the personnel, you know, a person that's working for us, and their policy and working.
What was the labor attorney that we were paying money to? What was his position?
This labor attorney works for the municipal association, and we get 10 free hours from him. And his name is Kevin Stern, and he was in Spartanburg, but he was recommended by the municipal association. He works for all the different towns and municipalities.
Did he recommend this wording?
Yes.
to help
We
clarify.
we
the
sent him
situation.
we sent the old ordinance up there to him. He reviewed it. We had 2 things we had to add in here, like drug policies and things that were federally mandated.
I'm gonna make a motion that we strike the last 2 sentences and see if it gets a second.
Let me write that down.
You know, I'm trying to keep it as a personnel policy, and we went back and forth about whether elected officials were town employees or not, and it has been clearly decided that they're not.
Elected officials are not town employees, but if we hire someone who is a immediate family member of an elected official, that's what that has to do with. Not with the elected official, with the person that is hired. They would be, and we don't have a policy, and it's not in here that says they can't be hired, and that means we can hire every one of our brothers, sisters, moms, daddies.
No, we should have a town policy. It should be a town
Well, I
policy.
think we ran this all by the Ethics Commission before, and that wasn't a problem.
I don't know if we ran it by the ethics
I
commission or
don't
not. I
remember.
remember our attorney looked at it, and I remember Dan Crow looked at it and told us it was already clear enough the way it was the first time. He wrote it, he's the one who put it in there, and he said it covered everything.
Okay,
We should have known that.
the sentence, the next to the last, members of the immediate family of elected officials are not eligible for town, that's a no-brainer, y'all.
Right.
We don't do that. And I looked at a lot of other state of South Carolina nepotism laws a few days ago. Budget control, University of South Carolina, a lot of them, and they all say essentially the same thing. But that's in all of them. that members of the immediate family of elected officials are not eligible for employment.
And they shouldn't be.
And they
because
shouldn't.
I agree with that. But I think you muddy the water. All right, when I said the last two sentences, I really meant the last sentence. Policy includes employees of any commission, committee, or other entity appointed by the council.
And that just clarifies that if somebody's hired by the Orchestra Commission and they are a immediate family member of an elected official, then they would not be eligible for employment with the town. So that just kind of clarifies the interpretations we've had in the past. And again, if somebody wants to hire their immediate family members for the Orchestra Commission, then change it so you can do so. It's still not technically allowed because they're still in town employment. They're still getting paid by the town. They get a paycheck from the town. This just clarifies it better. So, again, if y'all want to hire your wives or husbands or daughters or mamas, then change it and see if we can move forward. But I also want to let it be known that come December, anybody that wants to change it again, depending on what comes out in the election, they can go back and change it again, clarify it again. This is not set in stone. This is not every 5 years. We change it next month, next month, and next month. So, is there a motion? So you did make.
I made a motion, let me amend my motion to strike the last sentence where it includes commission, committee members, or entities appointed by the council. If it gets a second, it doesn't move forward.
First.
Second.
Do you want to delete it or change it?
I wanted to delete it as far as dealing with commission and committee members and other entities that will be appointed by the council. They're not employees. The council is not employees.
But if we hired somebody for that commission, they would be an employee of the town, because they're getting paid from the town. According to that lawyer, and according to Dan Crow, they are still, whether this sentence is in there or not, they are still employed by the town, and they get a paycheck from the town. Whether they get a 1099 or W-2, they're still.
Well, I'm getting a mixed information from town administrator and from you, because I asked those specific questions, and that was what I wanted specifically answered.
So you
And
asked,
I was told that,
this covered your situation as far as your wife, husband, or family member equal?
no, not that, I'm talking about
The employee
whether-
of the-
we, as elected officials,
Right,
are employees of the town.
and we're not.
We are not.
Right. But this hasn't got anything to do with that. This has to do with the people that we are hiring that are members of elected officials, whether we can hire them or not. That's all this has got to do with it. And technically, you can take that sentence out, but according to that attorney and according to Dan Crow, it's still, we can't do it. Even though we've done it, we still can't do it.
Okay.
So we got the second to take out that sentence. This policy includes employees of any commission, committee, or other entity appointed by the town. Any more discussion? Ready to vote? All in favor, do so with show of hands. All opposed?
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure how I was going to vote, but okay.
Which one are you?
I guess I'm opposed, but I can understand it too.
Right,
So are you voting on the amendment or?
Just the amendment, just that one amendment, taking that out. So anything else?
Yes, the very last line on page 14 deals with leave of absence. His employment will terminate upon his election to a partisan public office. We are nonpartisan. So I think that needs to be, either the partisan needs to be taken out or either made clear that it's nonpartisan.
Well, and I'm going to ask, and I don't know, but I think, too, what this is talking about is that if the employee, not just running for Irmo City Council, but if the employee decides to run for, say, a school board seat, then if that employee is, I'll go back to the first one, if there's certain circumstances involving real potential employees who run for partisan or nonpartisan, so whether they run for county council or school board or town council, public office may not be allowed to continue in town employment. They're placed on a leave until after the election. If the employee is placed on a leave, his employee will terminate upon his election to a partisan. And I would think.
I would think just do a public office.
Well, you could say to a public or nonpartisan vote. The only
But
thing
because when you add partisan to it, it draws into effect the Hatch Act.
Yeah. And the only thing too is that when the first part it says may not be allowed to, so I don't know if the attorney said anything as far as, because the first part says may not be, the second part says no. I don't know if there's a logical reason why they may not be allowed to continue, and then once they're elected, they're not allowed.
What if we just take out partisan?
That was my thing, just to delete the word partisan.
So, is there an amendment to delete that?
I'll make a motion to delete the word partisan from the very last line, the first word in the very last line of page 14.
Second.
Any discussion?
Well, the first sentence, in certain circumstances involving real or potential conflicts, employees who run for any partisan or nonpartisan public office may not be allowed to continue in town government. We should remove nonpartisan.
Well,
let's put it this way. If it was partisan, if this was a partisan body, you couldn't work for the state of South Carolina.
Absolutely, I know that.
That's the Hatch Act.
That's correct. But nonpartisan, I can.
That's right.
But they're saying here that you have to, if I'm running for a nonpartisan election, I have to quit my job.
Well, we don't need to do that.
well, and I think what they're saying is that if they run for any, basically any elected
But you're
office.
not an employee of the town.
Yeah, but this would be for employees.
Oh,
If they run for any elected office, take out partisan, nonpartisan, they may not be allowed to continue, and that would be a decision that would come down to, say, Bob. If Chief decides to run for something, then Bob could say, no, you can't continue, or yes, you can continue, yada, 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 and it would be open to both. But once they get elected, if they're elected to a, say, a Republican position or a Democrat position, then I could see where they can say no. If you're nonpartisan, you can keep your job. If it's partisan, we're not having that or something because you're politically aligned with some party or something.
So take partisan out is what you said. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
Well, I'll be okay with it, with down to Bob's discretion on that.
because I think it'd be up to him the first time.
Sure.
Until they get elected, then it would be different.
I think almost any office beyond us is partisan.
But the school boards,
Well, I was just referring to nonpartisan.
Yeah, that's right.
counties are normal.
Just school board.
Any more discussion?
So take partisan out both of those spots?
Well, right now, the amendment is just for the one. The last,
Do you want a friendly amendment to your amendment?
Yep, that's fine.
To take partisan out of both of those?
So run for,
For nonpartisan?
take out partisan and leave nonpartisan, right?
Right.
Okay.
well, you can probably take them both and just say for any public office.
No, because nonpartisan means you run for a specific office, and that doesn't include anything that you run. So take out partisan and or, and then take out partisan and
So it looks to me like you're looking at the last word in the first line of the last paragraph, partisan, and the first word in the last line, partisan. Is that what we're saying?
In or.
So you want to amend your amendment, or you want to just do another one, or? you wanna-
I'll amend it.
So you're going to delete partisan in both places.
Right.
In or.
Kim, did you,
And
we
I'm
get
trying to
you
get there.
totally confused?
Yeah, hold on.
Okay.
Well, let me ask this. Well, let's get a second first. Well, you get
I'll
a second.
second you.
All right, now, let me ask this. Somebody works at the town, they decide to run for a state house seat. And that's a partisan.
Mm-hmm.
So, right now,
They can't.
they can't.
That's right.
And I think you can get sued for that too, because if somebody there wants to run for a state house seat, I think they have every right to. I don't think you could terminate their employment. Now, when they get elected, it's a different story, but just running, I don't think you can.
Well, that's true.
But when you file, you have to establish, trying to remember, when I was employed by the state, I know I had to sign papers with the state agency that I was aware of the Hatch Act and that I could not run for a partisan office. Couldn't even run, couldn't file without violating the Hatch Act.
But that's only if you deal with federal funds. Yeah, it's only dealing with federal funds. If you don't have federal funds, then the Hatch Act actually doesn't apply. You gotta have federal dollars.
Well, what part of the state government doesn't deal with federal
Yeah,
funds?
yeah. Especially right now.
So, any more discussion?
No, but I think we ought to think about this. Well, go ahead and vote on it, change it, but, you know, we may need to bring it up again.
Do we have any more hours with that attorney?
If we find out that we're denied
Well, this
somebody.
one's been in there for 15 years, and just the attorney's involved. We've had 3 attorneys approve this portion.
The way it is right now,
Yeah,
without changing.
yeah.
I'm just saying, if we change it, do we have any more free hours, you can call him and ask him.
I don't know, I haven't been running a tab.
No,
I'm sure he has, but I mean, I call
well, I would
him.
just check with him and see, and ask him. Maybe there's a reason for wording it the way they worded it, I don't know. So any more discussion? All in favor then of the amendments to delete partisan in both spots and or in one spot? All in favor, do so with show of hand. All opposed? Any more changes? Seeing none, the next vote will be whether to approve it as amended or not approve it as amended. So, any more discussion on that? Everything. All in favor then of approving the new personnel policy as amended with the 3 changes or 4, whatever it is, do so with show of hands. All opposed? Next item is an approval to close a portion of Gibbs Street and petition the circuit court for final closure. Is there approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any discussion? Do we know anything more about anything? We're closing the whole street, and they can decide what they want to buy, purchase, or whatever. Is that correct? We're just closing the
That one
street.
portion, that
That's that one portion.
200 feet or whatever it
This
is.
little place here?
Yes.
Not this whole thing, just that little, not the whole.
No, the whole
Oh, okay.
Everything's
This is
together.
on Gibbs Street.
Oh,
Stops
okay.
right there, Lexington, you make a left, so
So
anything.
we're closing that. And we just vote on that, and then once we close the petition, and then they will tell us
Right, you approve
decide if they want to sell it or
Yeah,
not.
Mr. Moore will do a petition that we have to present to the board.
So okay, we got a second. Any more discussion?
I did see Dr. Raymond last week and mentioned it to her, and I don't think it's gonna affect her. but-
No.
I asked her about it as well.
Yeah, I thought she deserved to know.
Any more discussion?
May I ask a question? Since I'm going to have to do that petition, is it my understanding that we want to get the authority to deed it to the school district the moment we basically close it?
Well, after the petition is approved by the court, then we would do an ordinance to accept whatever their quitclaim deed.
You can probably simply, you can do an ordinance, but if you got the court authority authorizing you to do it, it would help. I would suggest that you add to that, asking the court to provide the authority for us to transfer it, then do your ordinance, and then transfer it, you're perfectly fine. I would add that.
In our ordinance, if we had to
We have to.
do whatever we had to do,
Yeah.
then we gotta have an appraisal and sell it at fair market value or something, whatever that may be.
Correct, because they're going to do the appraisal. I talked to the attorney over there, and then the school board obviously would have to approve whatever the appraisal is, $500 or $5,000. You know, once the school board approves it, then council would vote to accept and sell it.
Could it be worth as much as cleaning the side of that hill that worries me so?
I don't think it could be worth a lot.
Today,
And they can't
Oh.
do much.
I had occasion to speak to Mr. Richardson from the school district. I think with the money we raised at Arbor Day and the money they're going to commit, I think tentatively, we have an agreement not only to clean that portion of the hill, but to actually landscape that portion that comes out. I spent 30 minutes on the phone today. We're gonna put up
We might go.
probably a third of the money, and the school district's gonna put up 2/3.
Good.
And it's supposedly being done.
It really has worried me.
Worries me.
I appreciate that.
So, any more discussion?
If it was your granddaughter on the swing and there was a snake 10 feet away, you'd be worried too.
I think we could get a lawyer for a snake.
Hush.
So we have an approval to close that portion of Gibbs Street, and then we petition the court, and then we follow whatever those guidelines are out there that the state says gotta be done. And then we get an appraisal, and then it comes back to us. And then they say we want it and all that kind of stuff.
What did you
The
say?
procedure, you gotta go to court and then do, yeah. That's the right way to do it.
So, all in favor then of the approval to close a portion of Gibbs Street, do so with show of hands. Next item is presentation by citizens. This is for anyone who wants to address council, whether it's anything on the agenda or not. All we ask you to give us the name and address for the record.
Mr. Mayor, good evening. George Glassmeyer, 100 Denbeck Road. The first item I want to address is item 9, the personnel policy discussions that you folks just had. I got a couple of impressions. First of all, I think you're mixing apples and oranges. Mr. Hoots alluded to whether or not it's an ethics violation for a councilman to hire his or her employer. You alluded to that you got an opinion on that. I think that's a completely different issue than what the town puts in its personnel policy as to who it can hire and can't. So I think that's an apples and oranges thing. Second of all, I think you guys are not keeping your eye on the ball on this, because as the mayor said several times, as I understand his policy, it's designed to identify who can be employed by the town, notwithstanding whether or not they're relative of a councilman, but it does provide a provision that if that person is a relative of a councilman or councilwoman,
Sorry.
that's not a problem, that person is not eligible. And I think the town can certainly put that restriction in the policy manual as to what types of people are eligible to be town employees. And finally, when there was a fair amount of discussion as to partisan and nonpartisan, and somebody gave the example, well, what about a state legislator? And I don't know the answer to this, but this question came to mind. What if somebody that's a town employee were to run for a vacancy in the state legislature and declare as an independent? Would he be a partisan candidate or not? I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, it would be, that is a party.
Not an independent, because you can just,
You
don't
gotta
have,
declare it just like you
if
do
you
a
don't have
party.
to file with the party.
That's my question. I don't know the answer to that, but I mean, you know, is that a part, would that be a partisan? So I think you need to, I think you need to get an answer to that and put that in the mix when you're, as you pursue this policy. The next time I want to talk about is a matter that's come to my attention that if these facts as I understand them are true, it disturbs me greatly. It's my understanding that during the last Ochre Strut, the most recent Ochre Strut, that the town of Irmo spent tax dollars and rented a number of golf carts. And it's my understanding that Mr. Walker, Councilman Walker, used one of those golf carts all day for his personal transportation. Furthermore, it's my understanding that that golf cart that Councilman Walker used had one or more political signs on it. Now, I have a number of concerns about this. First of all, I don't want my tax dollars spent to provide personal transportation for Mr. Walker or any council member. Second of all, and I think the town residents deserve a full airing of the facts on this, and I think the town residents deserve an investigation on this and an explanation as to why tax dollars were spent to provide personal transportation for a council member around the Ochre Strut. And as to the political signs on this sign or signs on this golf cart, that disturbs me as well. In addition to my concerns that tax dollars are being spent for personal transportation for a council member, and I think that may well be a violation of the state ethics law, and I'm certainly going to investigate that and perhaps pursue that. But I have a great deal of concerns about that also, and I think the town needs to be aware of that, and the citizens have a right to know all the facts. And if any of my facts are incorrect or my understanding is incorrect, I implore Mr. Walker to set the record straight here and now tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm David Logston, live at 600 Timberleaf Court, and I've lived in Irmo since 2002. Today I was dismayed to see there was a campaign sign stolen from my property. I was out planting a tree, trying to improve the property a bit. Some fellow drove by in a white pickup truck and got out. He was wearing a police officer's uniform, nice young man. And we talked. I asked him, is there an issue? And he told me, he asked me if I had put the sign there. I said, yes, I had. It was on my property. At least it was on the property that I mow and I take care of. And we talked for a while. And I said, well, there's one across the street that has been there, and there's nobody living at that house as far as I know. So I said, but I don't have a problem with that if that person said it was okay to be there. So I asked him, I said, do I have to move the sign? And he said, it would probably be nice. I said, well, where should I move it where it would be okay? He said, well, move it over there a little bit, which would have still been about the same distance from the curb on the cul-de-sac side, but further away from the main road. And I started to do it, and then I said, you know, has anybody complained about me putting a sign there? And he said, nobody in particular has. So I said, well, you know, I mow that. As far as I know, that's my property. I treat it like my property. It's not a sidewalk there. It's not obstructing any of the public's property in any way that I know of. There's not a sidewalk. I mean, so it wasn't anybody's way. So he said, that's fine. I said, well, if somebody does complain about it, would you please give me a call and let me know? And if I have to move it, I will move it, if there's reason to move it. I went in to my house after planting the tree, went into the house, started on some other business in the house, and it was brought to my attention that my sign was gone. Now that was a couple of hours later, maybe 2 or 3 hours later. I called to report a stolen sign. I actually called the police officer that I talked to. He apologized. It was one of his people that hadn't gotten the word that he said it was okay for that sign to be there. Nice young man. He was simply being told to do that. And I don't blame it on him at all. Apparently the town administrator had him going out and doing that today. Well, I listened to all of your discussion tonight. I've been following you for a while, this council. Lived here since 2002. And your political bickering is now starting to infringe upon my First Amendment rights, as far as I'm concerned. And for people to go into my property and take a sign that I put up, and I don't care whose sign it was. If I wanted to put it there, I ought to be able to put it there during the political season, temporary sign. I went and I looked to see what the statute said about it. Our city code really doesn't say much about political signs at all. I don't think it says anything. The county does. And it talks about public right-of-ways. Well, I looked at the plat of my house. There's nothing that says there's a public right-of-way on my property. It does say there's an easement. As far as I know, that's not public right-of-way. That's an easement. And if I sound angry, I am angry. Because your political bickering, all of you, is starting to spill over into my First Amendment right. And you know what? This man over here, his people have better things to do than go around and pull signs up off of the street out of my yard and other people's yards. They could have been out there stopping people from driving down Arches Lane going 50 miles an hour. I'm angry. They could have been out just driving around preventing crime. I'm angry. You know, instead of all this political bickering you all are doing and then infringing upon, which causes, I believe it's causing an infringement upon my First Amendment right, you ought to be trying to bring this community together, make it the nice place it was when I first moved here. But I got to tell you, it's changing a lot. If you want to go around, get your heads. I used to fly in the Navy for 20 years. And then I drove ships in the Navy for another 10 years. And we used to say, if you really want to see what's going on, get your head out of the cockpit and look around. You guys need to get your head out of the cockpit and look around the neighborhoods and see what violations are really being made out there. With grass not being cut, vacant houses, the banks aren't taking care of the property because the banks must own them. Irmo is starting to look pretty seedy in a lot of areas, including my neighborhood. You look around, it's starting to look pretty seedy. Potholes in the roads. Yeah, I know you guys don't own a bunch of roads, but you do have the opportunity to talk to Lexington County, Richland County, City of Columbia, and have some political pull to maybe get some stuff done around here that will make our town look better. Schools are going down the tubes. When I got here, Irmo High was, 9 of 10. It's now, last time I looked, it was somewhere in a 3 or 4 of 10. What's going on there?
3 or 4 what? I don't understand.
It's a ranking, some sort of school ranking.
It's for education, isn't it?
Pardon?
It's more education than it is.
I know it may be education, but these are the leaders of our community. You ought to be interested in what's going on in our schools. We ought to be fixing the potholes, the drainage that I keep hearing about. It's not my neighborhood. I don't have a problem with drainage. But I hear people do have problems with that stuff. That's the kind of stuff you guys ought to be dealing with. Not pulling political signs out of my yard. Now, if you do have an issue, if somebody believes that somebody in this political season is planting signs where they're not authorized to do it or they haven't asked the owner of the house to do it, well, then find some other way to deal with that. But don't go around pulling signs out of my yard. Oh, by the way, there's still a sign in somebody's yard on Archer's Lane that's just as close to the road as mine was. I only had one. As mine was. But it's, it's still in about the same distance away from the curb as mine was.
Don't tell me whose sign it was.
It doesn't matter whose sign it was. I don't care.
No, I don't care either, but I want to know, was there a complaint
I don't know.
that your sign was too close?
I don't know. I think they were going out pulling up everybody's signs.
No, they're not pulling everybody's signs.
No, they're not.
No, they're not.
Well, then why did they pull my sign?
Specific sign.
Why did they pull mine? I want somebody tell me. Why did they pull my sign?
Well, I'd like to know.
I'm angry.
They pulled the one, and I will
Well,
say,
you can speak, let him finish first.
there's another sign issue, and I'll just approach it after.
There's more than another sign or two. I want to know why they pulled my sign then. And I don't blame the police department. I don't blame the sergeant. Nice young man. He shouldn't have had to be out there doing that. I'm angry. I'm even more angry now. Y'all need to get your act together, every one of you. You're making our city, you're making our town look like a bunch of idiots by your political bickering. All of it. That's all I have. Thank you. I didn't mean to get this much.
That's all right.
Robin Barker at 130 Hexham Circle. Sign issue as well. I just would like to know what the law is on the signs and where they can be placed, because I was on my way to a meeting just an hour or so, hour and a half ago, I guess, and I noticed that every single sign that has been on Woodrow Street going towards Bilo has been there for weeks. And as soon as one specific person's sign finally showed up, all of them disappeared. And they literally have been there. Nobody complained about these signs being there, and nobody said anything about these signs being there all the way up until just a couple of days ago, when one specific candidate sign got put up there, and all of a sudden now they're all gone. Yet the right-of-way for that one section on Woodrow Street, now all of them are gone, including the one person I think might be responsible for it. But yet his signs are also in the right-of-ways of many other places, neighborhoods, churches, different places like that where his sign sits, but yet those haven't been removed and they're still in right-of-ways as well. I would just like to know what the law is so I know where I can place signs for a specific candidate.
This is Woodrow Street right before Valley.
Yeah.
Right behind my house.
I know.
And every single sign is gone. Every single one of them. But all of them were there, and they were fine to be there all the way up until that one specific candidate sign showed up. Now all of them are gone. And mind you, I also know somebody whose sign, this candidate sign was put into their yard right down the road from the mayor's business. That sign disappeared several times. Now when I rode by again, after two signs were put in that person's yard, two signs were then put in that person's yard, now those signs are gone again. So I would like to know where those signs are disappearing from, and from what we were told, that resident has not moved them, somebody keeps taking them.
Well, I haven't taken, if that's what you're implying.
I'm not, I'm just asking the question.
I've seen
Who
them
said,
signs
who
go
said,
down.
who said you took
I've seen
it?
them signs.
Oh, it's back now, but only one is back. 4 signs have been put in that resident's yard.
Because I've seen, I'll put up 2 Saturday, and I see.
Excuse me, this is not a debate, right?
I'm
This
just
is not a
saying,
debate.
I know what you're talking about, and.
Listen to what the,
Am I supposed to be able to say my piece?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
you are.
I was just wondering. What I'm noticing is now all of a sudden, when this candidate signs are getting put up, they're all disappearing.
Bob, what's the policy on signs in the?
If it's in the public right of way, I haven't identified any signs anywhere in town to be taken down. I told the officer, well, I told Sergeant Dale, if they're in the public right of ways are on the roads, even in the residential areas. Most roads have a 50-foot right of way. So I know people mow up the curb.
It says easement on my property. It doesn't say right away.
You have a right of way. There's water and sewer running under your yard.
It's easement.
Where
It's not right away.
they can put like a sidewalk in your yard without your permission, or they
That's
can come and cut
correct. That's correct.
Okay, understood.
Sure, they have easement to do that.
Right,
But
understood.
I mow the grass.
Right.
I take care of that. If I stop taking care of that, what happens? That's my property. I take care of it. It says easement. It doesn't say right of way.
Well, see, so
It says you get on that property.
wouldn't the
without my permission.
church on North Royal Tower be part of the easement? Because I don't know if, right between the church and the dentist office, I mean, if you want to get specific in talking about your signs,
That belongs to the dentist.
and,
That's
and,
not church
and you
property.
asked him if you could put your sign there?
Yeah.
Our signs don't go up without permission. They never have.
He's let me put up signs there for years.
And that's not, because to me, that's the easement, because I can tell you right now that that's less than a foot from the road. So it would be the easement. Yeah, I could go take a picture right from now and go take a picture. It is in the
All
easement.
signs there. and there's
It is
always
in the
off road.
easement.
Kind of like
I'm just
that.
saying, if all those signs are gonna get removed, every single one of them, and it's specifically targeting one candidate, it needs to either be all or nothing. But we can't sit there and specifically target one candidate.
I will tell you, they weren't targeting
I was
just
about
one
to say,
candidate.
police
because
officers
there
aren't
were
targeting
More
anybody.
than the candidate that my signs were for, other candidates' signs were taken too, so it's not,
Right, when
I feel
I,
like the Lone Ranger.
right, I mean, and I agree, they took them all from that one easement, but they were all there, and they have been there
Well, so
for
is mine.
weeks.
Mine's been there. I'm telling
So,
you, it doesn't
but-
matter. There's
No
a war
policy
going
about
there's a war
taking
going
signs.
among all these people, and they could give a flying, you know what about
So
us.
Services property is.
Like the ones I'm with you, I mean, Harvey just told me about the ones.
Fed up
that
with it.
So
There were
what is
20
the
signs
law,
and all
so
of
that
them
I
were on
can,
The law is that
private
it's,
property, none
I
of them
believe
were right
that
of
it's
way.
not.
So what are they
supposed to
counting?
be
So I don't know why
right
they
away.
would have come down.
But, so if
Okay.
there's a
Because
curve
at
at
the
your
top of the
your
hill on
house,
Woodrow Street,
Right.
the property lines go
3 or 4
right
feet off the
till
curb.
you get, I mean, the actual property,
That's
not
where
like
it's
DOT
removed
white
from.
walks off.
Right.
You start to come
so
down hills.
the one on
that's
Woodrow
where
Street
most of
is
the property
not,
I don't
So if you're up on
know,
the
unless
flat spot,
somebody
you're fine.
called
That's
about
not
it.
right away, so I don't know why they would have come down. I mean, all I do is ask, talk to Dale when we get done with this, what's going on.
Well, the one that's mentioned was behind my house. That location has been a prime location for signage for the school boards for the last 20 years.
right,
For
so why did they
town
come down?
council, and first I've ever heard, I got a call that said that it was gone. It was there at noon today.
I know, I
And,
saw them this morning, and then when I went at 6, I didn't.
I rode by and all of them were down. And I have not inquired as to who, how, when, or why.
Is that DOT right away? Is that what?
No, ma'am.
Yeah, DOT's actually on that strip there, but I might answer your question a little bit. I can answer it. It is very vague. The town ordinance, I think, says no sign can be put in the right of way. That's what it says, no
Right.
sign.
That's all.
For
That could
businesses.
be, no, any sign. That could be yard sales, that could be political, that could be whatever, but none. The federal law has different guidelines and the state law has different guidelines. State law in South Carolina also says you can put signs in the right of way, as long as they're there, not there for 90 days. With, and I don't know if, I'd have to go back and read it, but I don't know if it says with permission of DOT or without, it just says they can be put in the right of way for 90 days under this criteria, and I can't remember all of it, but you have to go read it. There's a place to go read it, there's a place to find it. I think the problem is that some people ask to put signs up, some people don't.
Mhm.
And I know of places that signs have been put in the green space in the town of Irmo. And I asked for those to be removed because they're in the green space and I know they didn't get nobody's permission.
Where is that?
Mine have been taken down before when I put them there. Anyway, so I know today I went to, what is that place, Dollar General, to put up a sign there because I've been told I could. And the guy who owns the property said, no, I can't. He said, it's private property, that's our property, we're getting ready to take everybody's sign down. I said, okay, fine, I will not put mine up. I took Mark Julio's down because I know him, and I took Julius's down, and I said, you need to call these other gentlemen and talk to him. He said, we're getting ready to put our sign right there, those coming down, that's our property, they don't need to buy. So, that's the problem, is you put them up without permission, somebody can take them down. I've had numerous calls about people putting up signs on their property that they had no permission to. I told them, hey, if you want to take them down, take them down. If you want to throw them away, throw them away. I'll buy the steak, give you $1. Do whatever you want to do. They should not be put up anywhere unless people have permission. And if you're not asking people to put them up, and then once a neighbor goes out there and sticks them, whether to me it's too close to the right of way or not, that's not mine. I mean, they should put them there. If they cut the grass like he says, mine in my yard are probably in the right of way, but they're in my yard. But I got permission to put them there. Now, if somebody wants to come take them out, and I've had them taken out in front of my business before, and I can guarantee you, I called and said, bring them back to me, because they're in my business, I cut the grass, and you're not going to take them down. But it gets out of line, I'm not going to expect any law officer to get into the middle of this, that, and the other. If
But they
ride
have
down the
been.
road and say, hey, I'm just taking them off, then I'm gonna just take them off. We can go behind over here and pick them back up, and I'll go ask Julius and whoever else if I can put them back
I mean,
up
this goes
in their
beyond,
backyard.
this goes beyond signs,
Well,
obviously.
it
We
does,
all
it
know,
does.
we've all seen the issues. This goes way beyond signs.
Yes.
But I would like to know where I can put the signs, because obviously,
If they're in your yard, then that's your choice.
not just my yard, when I'm asking where I can go and put other signs.
Well, all I do.
For this,
All I can say is you need to ask the property owner and either ask him if I put it there.
okay, Woodrow Street, if I wanted to put a sign on Woodrow Street, you tell me that I cannot do that behind your home.
I'm just
I
saying.
gave myself permission to put my sign there.
Right.
But only
And I
for-
gave
Are those
permission
gonna
to
go
put-
back up? Do we know?
I'm gonna ask if I can put mine back up. I didn't know they were down, but I'm gonna ask if I can put mine back up. But I can tell you, because we just went through all this stuff, the right of way goes to the telephone pole. If they're in front of that telephone pole line, they're in DOT's right of way. If they're behind it, they're probably on personal private property, but that's not 100% guaranteed. Some of those fences are on the property line, some of them aren't, so. you know. I think best is just people ask for permission, put them up, and then if they come back down, come back over here, look for them, put them back up again.
Ms. Barker, you got 2 weeks of this thing left, so
Yeah.
in 2
Well, I
weeks it'll be
know.
all over, so I understand now.
Julius
Two
Waits,
weeks of
124
fighting
Bolton
with
Swamp
signage.
Road.
Of course, it's way beyond the
124.
sign issue, and
I know.
we all know that.
Signs don't vote. Okay, that's right.
Yes, the signs are gone behind Harvey's house and my house and my neighbor, Mr. Brown's house. However, when I asked the proprietor and owner of Main Street, where could I put a sign in front of their business, they said right there on the right side, on this side of the ditch, because the town of Irmo will yank them up and come and raise sand with us. So I placed my signs there. First 2 that were there. Then there appeared a big sign for Mr. Hoots, a sign for Mr. Harris, and then a portlet showed up. Today my wife was leaving to go to the mountains and called me after she left and said that Jim just said your signs are being pulled up. And I said, okay, I'll call Charlotte at Main Street. And she said, yes, said they're pulling them all up. I don't know who gave them permission to pull them up, but they're...
Come out on that side of,
On the east, you talking about?
They were placed where I was told by the owner was their property. It was on this side of the ditch, therefore it was not in the right of way. My sign is gone, or both of my signs are gone. Mr. Harris's sign is still there, and your big orange sign is still there.
I spoke with the superintendent this afternoon, because I had gotten permission from Gerald Steele,
So would I.
to put a sign there several weeks ago.
And mine was there before yours was. That's what I'm saying. Mine was further back. Yours is further, closer to the
And
street
he
than
told me
yours.
that he was going to put their company sign basically exactly where my sign was located, and he would like for me to move it. And I said, when do I need to get it moved? He said, within the next 2 days. I said, not a problem, I'll take care of it.
Well, I have a question like this young lady here. What is the, what exactly is the policy? How far back from the roadway?
Oh, okay.
there is no,
Is it one of these?
yeah.
You know, here's we move it, tails, we leave it there.
Yes.
They pop up in all different places, and as far as how far from the road, if you drive near your newspaper office, there's the road, there's this much curb, there's a sidewalk, and then there's signs. How far back is setback? How far back is right-of-way? How far back is public utilities
There's no way
easement?
of knowing. I think the only thing you can do is either, if it's somewhere where the town cuts the grass, you can kind of halfway tell where the town cuts the grass.
Well, they can't cut that grass. They haven't got a lawnmower that'll do that.
You can if you want to.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if you can tell, if you go up to Coon Road and Broad River and all those areas, and you will look, you will see political signs, real estate signs, for sale signs, all chewed up by the big lawnmower. They just run over.
Well,
But in the town, we move them so they're not traveling.
well, I take the rocks off the bank behind my house. I pick up the trash on that bank behind my house, so the lawnmowers that the city does send out won't be throwing it into my fence, across my fence, into my yard, possibly hitting my little 10-pound dog that's out in the backyard every once in a while. But enough about the signs. Now I want to refer to some rundown houses. I have walked through some of the nicer neighborhoods in the town of Irmo now. I've lost 4 pounds walking. But over in Beacon Hill, there's a house that the garage door fell off the last time they opened it, according to one of the neighbors across the street. The eaves and gables of the house in the back have been breached by possums and raccoons, according to this neighbor, because animal control had to come through their yard because of the trash behind this house to get to the place. The house down below me is still parking a truck and a trailer between the two houses. I don't know if it's been sold by the real estate agent who owns it to the people that have been parking trucks across the grass and across the yard, violating Irmo's rental policy. This has been going on since the 5th of May, when I found out from a friend who sells real estate who owned the house. I went to see this gentleman because I was told by my friend that he was a straight-up guy. He'll fix it. The 5th of June is when our first meeting in June is when I brought it up to the council here, that this house had trash bags chest high between the two houses. Those are now gone, but they were there from the 5th of May when I first noticed them, because I don't usually drive that way because I have trouble getting out of my driveway sometimes in my little car. I can't see down the street for a blockage that's in the way, but that's another story. But then those 2 tractors, or 2 trucks, dualies with trailers, lawnmowers piled up on the back of them. One time there was even a tractor on the back of them. They are no longer parking in the yard. They're parking between the 2 houses on dirt, not driveway. And I just want to know what's going to be done about it, because there is an ordinance that renters are supposed to pay $50 to the town to do business as a renter, and they're held to a higher standard as a renter than property owners, which I think is something the council ought to think about addressing. If everybody was on the same page, the rental house would be taken care of, and your house would have to be taken care of, and our property values wouldn't be submarined every now and then in different subdivisions when you have a problem in your neighborhood.
What's the approximate address of that house?
Oh boy, I'm 124, Harvey's next door. There's 2 houses between his house and the next house. It's 180 or 184, 148.
148? Okay.
At one time, you had a travel trailer parked in the driveway, and it was held up level with bricks and 2x4s. If one of those bricks or 2x4s had come out from that tongue of that trailer, it would have been in the house across the street, into your car if you were driving by, over some child playing ball in the street or whatever. Now, I'm just a crazy old man, but I've got grandchildren. Mr. Hoots has grandchildren. You walk down the street, you don't want to be hit by a travel trailer. At least I don't. And this has been going on since I approached this gentleman on the 5th of May. I brought it up to the council on the 5th of June, or the first meeting we had in June. And that's one of the reasons I decided to run for council. Can't get things done from the outside, maybe we can get it done from the inside.
Thank you.
Chief, we had the code people going on, didn't they? Did they not write those tickets, or they did write the tickets?
They issued abatement notices for all the complaints. And
Right.
all of them. He's right, they are parking between 2 houses that kind of converted into a driveway, but they're as much in compliance as they can be without being in the
Right.
yard.
But they are parking within the driveway?
They're
They
parked
reach your
to the
driveway?
next to the driveway, but they aren't on the neighbor's property.
But they would be 3
They
feet
are on
apart
the neighbor's property?
and inside setback, which also is illegal.
They are on the neighbor's property?
No, they're not on their property.
Okay, so they made another driveway to get to the back of the house and put, okay. Okay,
made a driveway? It's like
It's a dirt driveway, yeah.
okay.
Well, the town ordinance says it must be on concrete, on a rental property.
It is on this. Anyone else?
That's the ordinance.
Mark Pouliot, 31 Castlevale Court. The last time I was here, it was just after the floods. And I asked if FEMA could be called to help us out with some of the flooding issues that we've had in the past. Can you tell me if that was done?
I can't answer, I don't know.
I believe they were asked.
Things set up at the Irmo Library to take applications. There was a lot of information placed on news media as to FEMA's role in this, that what the folks that had damage needed to bring with them to meet with the FEMA officer to make a claim. So all of that has been done.
What about the town?
What about the town?
Well,
You apparently don't have no clue as to how FEMA works.
oh, I don't?
I said apparently you don't.
Let's see if I do.
Well, let's let him speak.
See if I do. The types of federal assistance that you get under FEMA is three-pronged. The first is individual, and I think, Councilman Hoots, that's what you're talking about.
Yes.
The second is municipal, and that's if any of the town-owned property was damaged. But the third, and this is where you're missing it, is what's called hazard mitigation assistance. And what hazard mitigation assistance is, it's funding for measures designed to reduce future losses to public and private property. They're not just going to fix it and have to throw money at it again. They want to fix it so it doesn't happen again. And that's why I asked you to go out there and beat the drum to get this done. We've already spent $33,700 for a study that we would not have
They
to
couldn't
do.
do that study.
Excuse me. They are going to assess the situation for the problem that they've had, and they're going to fix it. That's what they do. This has been an ongoing problem. If you'd like,
FEMA works, sir.
if you'd like, this is the guideline. That's 151 pages. You can read it.
I have a copy of it.
You'll notice that there's provisions to raise properties. There's also provisions to move properties. This is what they do. It's all right here. I also have here the website, if you'd like. So you can look at it. You can read it. This is what FEMA does. And this is why, Councilman Hoots, you can sit back with a smirk all you want. Until I hear the answer no, I'm going to push this. Why? Because you're spending money that perhaps you don't have to. Now, pertaining to what you discussed for hiring, I'm not sure you really understand what that is attempting to do. It's attempting to stop impropriety in our government. It's attempting to stop it. It's trying to address it and spell it out so you can't find a loophole. What did you do? 3 of you decided, I'm not going to do that. 3 of you decided to do that. You had a chance to take that loophole away, but you decided not to do that. It's wrong. It's wrong. And that's what the people here know. It's wrong. How many attorneys do you have to listen to for you to understand it's wrong? Close the loophole. Please stop this. I'm going out and I'm hearing people who are sick of this. You're hearing ordinance violations here. We're worrying about signs. We're not even worried about a 32-foot motorhome on somebody else's property. Come on. Impropriety. You're not above everyone else. If we have to follow it, so shouldn't you. Fix it. Or I expect the voters to fix it.
Thank you.
Mr. Brown, don't we have, do we have any catastrophic flooding events in the town of Irmo?
We did not.
So we didn't have any situations really in Irmo where a FEMA call would have been made to mitigate somebody's property that got destroyed in a flood within the town limits.
We did invite them over though. They came over last week along with a representative from Lexington County and Richmond County and went over to try and draw.
Yeah.
There was no damage over there caused by the recent rain event.
Did they say they
FEMA
could
went to take care of people who had a problem.
Yeah,
they were not going to give us.
So we have a lot of people in the state, not only in this county, but the state, that's had total losses that will require them to call FEMA.
Well, they had real
help.
disasters.
Real disasters, right.
And FEMA works through the South Carolina Emergency Management Division. They collect all of that information from the communities and the towns. The towns do not make application directly to FEMA. They have to go through the Emergency Management Division, of which the governor signs off on, and the governor makes the request to Washington, which she has done. She made a preliminary request, she made a follow-up request, and we have a declaration from the president signed to take care of South Carolina. But it will all be done through the Emergency Management Division. FEMA does not work with individuals and individual towns and that sort of thing. It all comes back to them because they're not concerned with, you know, a couple $100,000 or a couple $1 million. They're looking at what the total cost to the state will be. And when they figure the total cost of the state, that's when the federal government, through FEMA, will decide what the percentage is that they're going to do. Whether they're going to do a 90-10 reimbursement, 80-20, 75-25. And that's how that's determined. And it's not individual sales. It's all through the Emergency Management Division and under the signature of the governor. So all of that is in the works and being done.
But Bob, they saw Charing Cross.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me ask you a
We
question.
didn't have any total losses.
We had 9 homes that did have water damage over on Chapel Way.
Chapel White.
Except for one.
What about Doncaster Drive? They had water in their home down there.
Didn't have a report from over there.
I mean, I'm just saying they have
Oh,
water in
okay.
their home,
Okay.
because they told me they did. But then again, I think they're dealing with it themselves because that's just what they're doing.
Well, I know there's a lot of people in this area that has total loss.
Right.
Which to me is much more, to me, is a lot more strenuous and disturbing than, you know, something that we're already working on as far as the town is concerned.
All I know is the people that live on Chapelwhite are not real happy that their house had to be gutted out and everything, so we can sit here and debate whether somebody has a total loss or somebody has a $10,000 loss and they gotta pull out everything and move out and throw it all away. I don't think that's a good, wise thing for us to do. The one question I do wanna ask is, Eric, what you saying, or what y'all saying, is that FEMA will not address Charing Cross and do the, whatever they call it, hazard mitigation assistance for Charing Cross to see about raising that home. Is that what we're?
That's what they said, because they did not, it was not affected during the rain event. Everything has to be centering around the rain event that we had 2 weeks ago.
So any flooding that we've had anywhere,
It had
they're
to
not
be
going to
during
mitigate it
During the disaster,
unless it's
yeah.
during that flood there. or that
Correct,
rain
these are
event.
pre-existing condition.
Okay.
And this is a long
They stated that
process.
somewhere, we,
I'll see, I don't know if they can put anything in writing, I didn't do anything.
because I'd like to get that email address or website to see if there's anything that can be done.
FEMA.gov.
Okay.
Anyone else? Oh,
Dave Logston again on the topic of the FEMA question. It's an example of you all getting your head out of the cockpit and doing something. He wasn't talking about this last flood event. He was talking about a problem that's existed for a while.
Right,
And he asked, did you all go to FEMA or did the city do anything? And the answer, was, you've got a bureaucratic answer. I worked in bureaucracy for 30 years. I'm the biggest bureaucracy in the world. So I know bureaucracy when I see it. And the answer should have been either we are or we will, and we're on top of it, not make excuses. But this is the problem. You guys need to really take a look at yourselves, all of you. I'm talking about all of you.
Wait,
Did
we've
you not hear what he
been
just
dealing with Charing Cross.
Yeah, I did hear him say, he didn't say that to that guy though, did he? He made a bunch of excuses and stuff.
We've been dealing with this
I
in county,
understand.
the state, every kind of level possible, for years.
And we are fixing the problem, we spent $33,000 on it, don't say we're not
But
fixing it. They're looking into it.
that's not the question.
That was
What he
the
was talking about was FEMA in particular.
Hazard.
And he got a bureaucratic answer out of it, not what you should do.
Bureaucrat, that's the problem, bureaucrat.
anyone else?
Whatever.
Anyone else?
I have a question.
Oh,
So, I want to discuss, well, I don't know if I should go down this way, but, the Irmo Arbor Day was honored by the House members, at their recent golf tournament, and, in particular, Jake Moore and the Irmo Arbor Day Committee, and they were recognized. This last golf tournament, they netted $65,000, which is just tremendous. And it's a big thanks to Jim Turner, Becky Moore, Jake Moore, and the entire Arbor Day Committee. This money goes straight to trees, to beautification, that we should be all proud of in our locals. And we certainly couldn't do it out of our own budget. So Representative Lott and Representative Huggins presented this nice little resolution, and to Jake Moore, and I'd like to present it to Jake.
Can we hang it in town hall and some of the rest of these things?
And town council, I feel. Yeah. Stand around, Jake. They gave it to you. Well, I took it, but I want you to receive it. Yeah.
you want to read it?
Sure, I'll be glad to read it. State of South Carolina House of Representatives, on motion of Representative Chip Huggins, members of the House of Representatives, commend and recognize Jake Moore, founder and chairman, Irmo Arbor Day Committee. Congratulating Jake Moore, founder and chairman, and the Irmo Arbor Day Committee for all they have done and continue to do for the beautiful town of Irmo, South Carolina. Specifically, work done to the Veterans and Children's Park, landscaping of churches and schools, upgrades to the railroad tracks, and numerous other projects over the past 15 years. We commend them on their success and thank them for all they have done, not only for the town of Irmo, but the state of South Carolina as a whole. We wish them much prosperity and continued success in all future endeavors as they uphold the Arbor Day custom. Given this 15th day of October 2015 State House Columbia, South Carolina.
That's very nice.
Very good.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much.
Hang it wherever you'd like. It's
Bob,
a-
can you hang this in here somewhere? Bob, can you hang this in here somewhere? Would that be all right? Sure.
We have a blank wall somewhere.
And
Kathy, if you would like, I can give you an update on Irmo Elementary if you want.
I'm just glad you're taking care of it, but y'all have made the deal and
We've got a deal. I believe this year with the money we raised in the golf tournament and what the school district is willing to do, we will be able to finish Irmo Elementary this year. The snakes will be gone.
Hey, I think the snakes need to be represented, man. Y'all keep, they serve a purpose.
Snakes are gone. I'd like to
I
have
think
that.
that's wonderful, Jay. I
Thank you.
really do.
Now, watch, we have a rodent problem after the snake's gone, you know, we were saying, well,
Well, the rodents would at least eat the snakes.
No, the
That
snakes
was the
will
other
be
way
the
around. They-
I'm talking about big snakes,
Oh, okay.
big rodents.
any more presentation by citizens? Next item then is executive session, and it says we have one here for a personnel police department. So is there a motion to go into the executive session for a personnel police department?
So moved.
And second,
Second.
any discussion? All in favor? We will come back out and then adjourn from here. We're out of executive session, no decisions were made, no votes taken. Next item is adjournment. Is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
And all in favor of adjourning, do so show of hands.